Yo, what is up, guys? I'm making a YouTube video about how to use ComfyUI to generate AI slop art because a lot of people ask me like, "Oh man, that AI pic is so cool. How can I do the same thing?" And it's best to just make a video so I can send it to people who want to know. Second reason why is because AI is kind of in right now. So there's this controversy with Touhou project, was that the author of the series, Zun, he's using AI generated backgrounds in his new game. People are just losing their minds because they're fucking retarded, dude. And I'm a huge contrarian, and that just makes me like AI even more than usual. Not that I'm super into AI, because there's those people out there who it's like shove AI into everything, and it looks gross because AI is slop, but still it's a pretty cool and interesting technology. So to get started, you're gonna download this. Hit download for Windows. You'll get an installer. Let me see. You get this installer here. You run it. I could run it as well, but what I noticed is that since I got started, they made the setup process really streamlined. So you just click through it. You let it run for a while. As a preface, you need an NVIDIA GPU that's fairly new. AMD is starting to get into AI stuff, but super slow. As a rule of thumb, the absolute oldest GPU you could use is like the 1060. The minimum is like the 2080 in terms of like age and performance. Well, anything after there, it's kind of smooth sailing. I'm on a 4060, so I'm gonna open up ComfyUI. I actually got it going here, kinda. This is, I just installed it minutes ago. I've got parts of it running. And I'm going to start from scratch. So I'll hit new. I'm going to close everything else that I had open. Because this is for like, absolute beginners who can't tie their shoelaces. So when you get started, like when the program opens up, you'll be at this screen here. And you can select this image generation template and it works perfectly well. I don't have the checkpoint that ships with, but I'll explain what a checkpoint is. Checkpoint is essentially it's tens of thousands of images that have been tagged, and the AI is able to take this file, this checkpoint file, and use it as a database to create other images. So the reason why AI anime art got really good and happened so fast is because Danburu and websites like that, they have like a huge database for AI images to source things from to gain an understanding. So the checkpoint that I use is called Illustrious. I've got ads because I'm in incognito mode. It's here. Y NSFW. So you have some options with the checkpoints, but you should use forks of Illustrious. And this one here, it's a fork of Illustrious that's super good. It's updated pretty often. Their previous version was kind of bad, but the new version is super good. That's part of why I got back into AI. So you just hit download, and this website is Civit AI. It's kind of like a one-stop place for this kind of thing. You can browse images that people make, but it's also like gross third worlders just shoving stuff onto the site. So most of it's bad, but the valuable stuff is the checkpoints and other assets like that. So you'd hit download, 6.5 gigabytes, and then you'd go into ComfyUI. You would hit, let's see here, you'd go into help, open folder, open models folder, and then you look for, or in the models folder itself, now you look for checkpoints, and you drop it in there. So here I have this big file. That's the same one you get from the site. So now back in here, I could set this. You hit R to reload everything, and then you would see your checkpoint. And I can just set this to the checkpoint that we put in. And this, even though it's a checkpoint made for anime, it can still do miscellaneous things like this. This is supposed to generate, it looks like a potion from Terraria or something like that. It's a galaxy in a bottle. So I'm going to hit run. To make it fast, I'll reduce the steps, and I'll explain what those do in a bit. So here we go. It'll generate pretty fast. It takes a moment to just load in the AI, and then once it's here, it's starting to run. And now, any second now, let's blitz through. That's where the progress bar is. Come on, where is it? Ooh. Okay, it started. As you can see, it ran very fast. And then boom. This image is pretty primitive. For the sake of a good example, I'm going to increase the number of steps back to what it was before, but you get the picture. It managed to generate a galaxy in a bottle. Now here, you can see it started up fast because everything had now been loaded in. And then boom, we have a much better image of this galaxy in a bottle. That's pretty cool looking. NGL. So to explain all these parts, I explained the checkpoint. This is like the start. You load that big database AI file thing. Then you have the text encoders. So this is the positive prompt, and this is the negative prompt. So, here it describes that it's making a galaxy in a bottle, something like that. And here it says it doesn't want text, it doesn't want a watermark. That's a pretty simple system to understand. You can write it with like tags, like I don't know, let's add a tag like spilling, overflowing, bubbling. That could change how it looks, maybe. I think that would work. Or you could write like create a galaxy in a bottle in a beautiful landscape with a purple galaxy. Boom. You can prompt it in one of those two ways. I think it's kind of schizophrenic to do it the second way, but a lot of people choose that. Maybe a lot of models are tailored towards that, but for me, just treat it like Danburu or Jelburu. You just enter these tags. So then here, empty latent image. This isn't too important, but you should know that if you're generating like AI anime art, you definitely want to set it to 1024 by 1024. You set it to 512, it generates like super low fidelity images, just saying. I'll try, let's see here. I'll generate one in 1024, and the fidelity goes up. It's not just the resolution, it's how much space the AI has to create something. So if you did like, I don't know, just 512, it'd be really bad at like creating human beings in anatomy, just saying. Like I didn't know that when I started. So here it's to spit out a new picture, and you can see what my tags have done. Hey, it worked. So the potion is now spilling everywhere, just like I said. This picture is pretty cool. You can tell just like a much more detailed and intricate image now that I've upped it to 1024. Next, I've got to explain this part. Seed, that's super simple. It's like you're playing Minecraft. Each world has a seed. In the same way, each image has a seed. And then control to generate. So that affects what becomes of the seed each time you generate an image. So in this case, I hit run. This is randomized to some giant number. If I hit increment, it goes up by 1. If I hit decrement, it goes down by 1. If I hit fixed, it uses the same 1. And that's, all of those have their own uses. I use increment and fixed often to get like more controlled thing. Like I want something where I can just go back. Let's say I generate 4 images. If I change it from increment to decrement, it'll go back and do those 4 images again, but with whatever changes I want. And that's kind of a useful thing. Steps are each step that the AI takes. It gives it it's making the image like more accurate. It's taking time to polish it and fix things like anatomy and how it should look. If you only let it use like one step, it just make like a deformed, blurry image. The more steps you give it, the more detailed and fixed up it can come out. But there's diminishing returns. So usually people use between 18 to 24, sometimes like 28. For me, if I get like a really good image, I'll hit fixed so I can get the exact same image after making sure that the seed is the same. And then I'd set the steps up to like 48. And I'd see if that makes the image even better and more polished. It's not like a one-trick pony though. It's not like increasing it just makes your image better, but it can do that, like sometimes. And then CFG. So this is how much randomness the AI applies in creating the image. So the randomness is like, if the AI is going freestyle versus reading your prompt. So by setting it to 8, I think it's using more of your prompt, and by turning it down, sometimes people go low to like 3.5, it uses less of your prompts and lets the AI take over and do what it thinks is right. Usually you learn by copying what other people have done, and on those sites like I showed Civit AI, you can see what people use. Like you can see all their settings and their prompt. That's like a crazy feature, by the way. You can see what everyone used to make everything as long as they share it, which is the majority of people. For me, I only hit like 3.5 or 8 just to see how it'll come out. It's not huge importance though. Here is the sampler. The sampler affects kind of how clean the image will come out. And it comes down to a matter of preference or what your use case is. So usually I use Euler Ancestral or DPM2S Ancestral. I think Euler is very sharp, while DPM it creates a more blurred look. And those two are like the most popular. Usually you take the same image, put it back through both. But in the end, most people default to one. I think most people use Euler Ancestral right now, so you don't have to worry too much about that one. But you should also try DPM. Any of the variants might be kind of similar, I guess. Scheduler, that's not important. Denoise is only important if you're doing AI image to image stuff. So that means like, for example, I took this picture of Goku from Dragon Ball holding an AK-47. and it's just like a super cool, badass, and funny picture. And I thought, I should take this and use AI image to image on it. And what denoise does is if it's one, none of the original image that you're using as reference gets through. Like a tiny amount does technically. Well, if I set to like 0.7, 30% of the original image gets through, and then the AI can work with the rest, that 70%. And then if you set it down super low, it's mostly the original image that gets through with only small changes made by the AI. That's only something to note for AI image to image stuff. So anyways, now to move on to anime stuff, I'll go get some tags that I like using. Let me see here. Let me see what this is. Nope, it's nothing. So a feature of AI is that you can just drop in a picture that was made by ComfyUI, and you can get the exact same workflow out. So I'm gonna go take an image that I made. I'll take this one. I'm gonna censor all that stuff because lots of porn in there. I'm a gooner. So here, you can see that I had all these tags that masterpiece, high res, 4K. That's very standard for making AI image stuff. Like you throw in all those tags as quality control. It's not as necessary now that AI is getting better and better. That's part of why I got back into AI, because my models got updated and they're like way better than before. But still, you want to throw in as many of these as you feel like. I use a lot because I guess that's just how I am, and I get the best results that way. So these go like masterpiece, high res, 4K. These are all from like the Buru sites, like Dan Buru and Gel Buru. And then after that, I should talk about like these two tags. They helped me with making the art better, because the thing that AI art suffers from is that if you take a close look at the face is usually kind of blurry, and this helps deal with that. And this is like score 9, it's talking about the quality from like the Buru site. And then this tag here kind of helps influence what the image came out as. It's talking about the artist called Space Jin. And then here we've got like tags relating to like Touhou. It's saying that it's Smoko from Touhou. She's got long white hair. She's in a bikini. That's because it's based off of that Dragon Ball picture. You can't see it right now, but like I said, it's Goku with an AK-47. So I won't get into the AI image to image stuff because I'm just trying to show the fundamentals right now. But I'm gonna copy this part here, and then I'll go back here. I'll remove some stuff that shouldn't be there, and I'll enter like Touhou. What's a Touhou character? Let's think here, chat. Let's use Byakuren. Hijiri Byakuren. I think all that works. And then let's pick some other tags. So you can think like Japanese background, temple grounds, daytime, clouds, blurred background. And then for the negatives, I'm going to go back here. Usually the negative encoding isn't too important. You just copy it from what other people are using. This is one thing that I copied from like a person who was generating Touhou stuff as well. And they're using like the Space Jin art style, something like that. And now we can hit run and see how this comes out. This will take a sec because it's generating something more complicated. And hope it's safe for work. I think it will be. Yeah, it'll just be kind of risque, or however you pronounce that. Another thing is that it's going to look like it's AI generated. The reason why is because we're just using a checkpoint and we're not using what's called a LoRA, so we're not making a more specific image. And it doesn't look AI generated in the bad way. It's that it just looks kind of blurry because it's averaged over like tens of thousands of images. Not blurry, but it's a distinctive AI look to it. So let's see if it worked. Yeah, so look, it made Byakuren from Touhou, but you can easily tell it's AI generated. And not in the bad way, because usually people would say like, oh man, look at the hands. The hands are so broken. It's not that something's broken here. In fact, like nothing's really broken. Maybe you can say like that's a visual error kind of at the color, but not really. It's just very general shading. You can tell it's averaged tens of thousands of images to make that. So now, to make something more specific, this is the thing a lot of people are curious about. It's called a LoRA. So LoRA is a thing. I explained that a checkpoint is when you have AI use something like Danburu as a database and copies tens of thousands of images, and it uses that to learn and then create more. That's why the file sizes are big, because inside, I think that's what's in there. It's got like tons and tons of data on that. Now, a LoRA is the exact same thing, but it's smaller, and it's got a more specific data set input. So it only took like the art from a single artist, for example. That gave it a super specific look, and that's how you make really human-looking art. That's taking it's taking what another artist's art style looks like. That's part of why I got into that stuff, because it's just so interesting. Or AI as a whole, rather. So to add a LoRA, that's pretty simple. So add node, I'll actually use this part here because it's more beginner friendly. Node library, and I'll search LoRa. Load LoRa. Now, it so happens that I've got LoRas already in my folder, but I'm going to navigate to that folder anyways. So I went to Help, Open Folder, Open Models folder, just like before. But instead of going to the Checkpoints folder, I'm going to go to the LoRa's folder. And you can see that I've got two. I've got one for the artist called SpaceGen, and I've got one for the artist called Touhou, which are like two super popular artists that everyone wants to take the art style of and use in AI. So now to add this in, you take model, put it in there, you take clip, put it in there, and then you put it where those other ones used to go. And this would work. Like, you can, of course, like, this is, of course, a very complicated program, and you can, like, take it so much farther, but, like, this setup here would work for what a lot of people want. Like, it gets you from point A to point B of taking art style, and we'll see how different it is. Should be pretty interesting. It's going to take the art style of SpaceGen. That one doesn't work as good as the Touhou one does, and that makes me think I should train my own LoRa. But still, it works pretty well. I've made a lot of cool looking stuff. People are like, oh my god. Yeah, so that works pretty well. Like, the color could be better, but you can see it copied the art style. This is just much better looking, and it's much more human looking. Like, this is pretty cool. Alright guys, for the second part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use two LoRas instead of one, along with other things like image to image and upscaling an image so that has a different resolution. So I'm going to start by taking the image that we made, and I'm going to make it better. So I'm going to put my own spin on it. So I'm going to add something like this here. I'm going to add dynamic angle, dynamic pose, foreshortening, and then what else? Feels like I'm missing something. It's no big deal. And then I'm going to add, let's see here, large breasts, looking at viewer, cowboy shot, Dutch angle. So those are all tags from the Buru sites, so just remember. And then I added large breasts because that's just who I am. Like, shoot me, but it's who I am. Now I'm going to hit run, and we'll make like a better version of what we just made. Like, you know, same genre if we've made a SpaceGen Touhou thing, but I've added tags to my own expertise, so I'll make it a lot better. And then once the image generates, I can get onto the part that I mentioned of using two LoRa's instead of one. So wow, this pic could come out a lot less blurry, but it's still pretty cool. If I wanted it to come out less blurry, I would play with this. So I'm going to change this to 28 and that to 3.5. Usually you only want to isolate for one variable, but it's kind of a waste of time. So since I know what to do, I'm going to try changing multiples at once and seeing how it turns out. And it's very interesting because we can just use the exact same seed. So it's the same thing internally, but we've only changed the variables that we want. While changing the seed itself will make something way different. So it's almost out. There's more that I could change over there. Check it out. Let's see. Okay, so that, it looks a lot more generic. Like, it doesn't look like the SpaceGen art style, I would say. It's a pretty clean image. It's kind of weird, though. Like, you know, raises the question of what is she doing? Because her hands are doing something random. But still, like, we've come far since that original picture over there. So I'll set that to 6 to make it closer to the what the tags are defining. And I'll come over here and I'll set it to that, because I usually wind up using this one. I think that I didn't explain what samplers do, but don't worry about it. While I'm waiting for that to generate, I'll get onto the part that I mentioned about using two LoRa's. So I just click on the node, copy paste. Then I place them next to each other. Put that into there, that into there. That's all correct. Then I simply put that into there. Oop, that into there. Huh, that's still not done, huh? Unless, nah. So now I switch it to the second LoRa that I want to use. It's Touhou, that artist he made that game about Raisin in a cave. Then I said, oh yeah, you set it to only sum up 1. So that's equal to 0.5, that's equal to 0.5. So therefore it sums up to 1. If you go over 1, it starts breaking. Under 1 is fine. Now if you come over here, I think this is pretty solid. Like, the facial expression could be better. This is pretty sweet. It tempts me to go back and make it even better, because I imagine, you know, what if I had the tags like angry and movement lines, and it could create something like, you know, superhuman looking. Like, this still to me doesn't look human enough. It's below my standards, but it's getting better. And then let's just hit it. We're gonna see what happens if we combine those two LoRAs. Do, 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 do. Another thing, let me think if there's anything else I should say. I guess there isn't too much. It's actually a pretty easy to get into software. It's just that people need a shove, so I made a simple YouTube video about it. Another thing is that you can use this for all sorts of things. Like, recently I was considering making a new website. I actually did. And a thing I was looking into is, are there workflows that people use for generating logos and, like, promotional material? And I checked that out. I would say that ChatGPT did an okay job, but in the end, I'd rather have it something local like this. Let's see how the image is gonna come out. Okay. Damn, it's kind of sick. Okay, so again, the pose is kind of strange, but that's just down to how I put in these tags like dynamic angle and dynamic pose. Those are like a very sharp sword per se. Like, they can make AI images come out way better in my experience, or because they didn't really tell it what to do. Like, what if I said that she's about to punch the viewer? Like, with some tags for that, that would create a really good picture. So it's just that I've confused the AI by being a little bit directionless maybe, but still, this is pretty solid. Now, I said I was going to do image to image, so I'll get on that now. So to do image to image, I can just load the workflow for it up here. So browse templates, image to image. It says I'm missing a node, doesn't matter. Ooh, there's some Chinese stuff over here. So first, I get my checkpoint. Second, let's go find an image. I'm gonna look for the picture of Goku that I used last time. Let's see, maybe I called it Cobson, because I tried using that one there. Nope, that's just Cobson from Soy Jack Party. You know what? That's like a brush of inspiration. I should use this picture. Thing is, though, I'm gonna go into GIMP and I'm gonna edit it first to make it 1024 by 1024. So boom, we've got Cobson from Soy Jack Party. Whoops, typo. So that, scale, export, and then I just wait a moment, AI2, and we'll call this cob.png. So back in our workflow, we can load it, it goes in there. We can check out the tags here. I'm gonna go back to our previous workflow and grab what I used last time. You're gonna wind up reusing a lot of these tags often. Like, that's why, it's good to save like your images, and it's a good feature that you can just drag and drop the images back in to get your workflow back. So here we have a lot of what we were using, and then I'm gonna say it's a bust shot, because now I'm gonna go and describe this kind of. So it's a bust shot, happy, glasses, excited, and I'm gonna add to the negative prompt, looking at viewer, because it looks like he's looking into space. So I'm gonna go with looking at viewer in the negative prompt, and then let's pick a Touhou character to use here. I could pick Notori, like that makes so much sense. Open mouth, classroom. I'm gonna pick Kene because he's in a classroom. Yeah, it's genius. Classroom, blurred background, chalkboard, Kami Shirasawa. Did I spell it right? Kami Shirasawa. Yep. Touhou. And then I think that we're almost good to go. Just gonna copy the negatives, and we'll see what crazy image to image this gives us. I'm gonna talk about this thing called denoise. This is the image to image part of the video. Denoise controls how much of the original image versus how much control the AI has. So if I set to 0.9, 10% of it would be the original image, and 90% is the AI's work. The default here is 0.87. That makes a lot of sense to me. Well, if you set down like 0.5, half of the original image goes in, half is made by AI. It actually gets pretty messed up. And then we'll keep the other settings and see what happens. Actually, no, I'm going to trust in my own settings. Let's see here. So I'll pick, yeah, these are similar to mine. And I'll pick fixed and set it to 1. That's how I like to start. And I'll set this to 24. And I'll hit run. There's no LoRA like before, but you never know. You might get a sick picture of Kene. Hopefully you make like her doing a similar face to this. Like, that's the point of image to image. It's like, I look at this meme and I'm like, I want that, but Touhou. And hopefully it'll come out that way. That's the goal. And if you don't get that, you have to play with the noise and with the tags and everything. But I'm pretty optimistic this will work. Let's see, almost done. crossing my fingers because, you know, we need to cook an amazing image for this YouTube video. Let's see. Huh, that's certainly interesting. I mean, this is messed up. I know how to fix this maybe, so I'm going to set it up to a super high value. But you can see how the soy jack meme is influencing the output here. That's what's interesting. So you can see the chalkboard is at the same point. You see it's trying to create a window there, and you know, it made her skin white just like the soy jack. So let's hit run again. I'm also sorry for using a soy jack, because I think, like, you know, that shit is like, it's like a dead meme, and only like the dumbest pieces of shit are into that now, but it's also pretty funny. So that's, you know, that's a disclaimer I gotta give. I think this will work. And even if it doesn't work, I can start slicing up. Like, I'll get prepared to add a LoRA. Whoops. LoRA. Load LoRA. Alright, let's get excited. Ooh, here we go, here we go. Hey! That's actually pretty good. Like, of course, there's a nonsensical white desk, but, you know, this is pretty good. So it has some of the fundamentals, like, just look at the composition. It's pretty similar, right? But it's now quite different because, you know, we kind of closed the valve off. We set to only 5% influence in the original image, but this is pretty cute, and it's, you know, totally doing what I told it to. So I guess that can conclude the image-to-image section of this video. Alright guys, for the last part of this tutorial, I want to, like, crack my knuckles and, like, take a pic that we made earlier and just totally rizz it up, because in general I'd want to do that. And I remember that we made this cool picture of Biekeren, and, you know, if I just made this in passing, I might think to myself, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to make this even better, because, you know, the seed that just happened to, it's like this image coming into the world is like, in a way, each one is a small miracle. So if you get a good one, it's very coincident. It does have a lot to do with your tags, of course, but, you know, each one doesn't come out equal. Like, all of these came out very different from one another if we used a different seed. So I'm going to start by, first, I increase the steps. I'm going to go for 32. CFG, I think higher CFGs are better. I made sure that I understand how it works. The higher it is, the more it uses your tags. For the sampler, I'm going to switch to DPM2S. Denoise, that's all fine. Let's see, let's go into the tags. First thing I can do is I can start adding emphasis. So I'm going to add, I always add a little bit of emphasis to these 3 tags because they're kind of sweet. I might remove it from foreshortening, because if you're not familiar with art photography, that's it's like a technique of sorts, and it can just mess stuff up in terms of the perspective, but it is a super cool effect. And then, let's see, dynamic animal, dynamic pose, I think that's all good. Let's see, Biekeren, I'm going to add movement lines. I'm going to try adding the tag space in, because that can help. It's not actually related to the LoRA, it's related to the checkpoint, because space in is super popular. So the checkpoints have a lot of his art, and they actually know how to use that tag. But it is superior to use the LoRA. What else should I do? About to punch viewer, POV, eyes closed, happy, sparkles. Like, I think this can make an interesting picture for sure. Let's see if that doesn't conflict with anything else I did. It's closed. Closed mouth, smile. Actually, I'm going to rewrite that like this so that they don't conflict. And I think this can make a sick picture, maybe. And then I'm going to increase the emphasis on blurred background. The thing I need to explain is what I'm doing with these parentheses is when you put something in parentheses, it adds emphasis. I think this is like emphasis level 1. Then there's level 2, and it goes on and on. If you go to 3 or over 3, it's going to start breaking stuff because of how much emphasis you're adding. But you can also write it manually. So to do it manually, you put it in parentheses, you put one of those, and then you just put, I actually forget what this thing is called, sometimes I remember, and then you just put in a number or a float. So 1.3 is kind of high, 1.7 is the point where it starts breaking. Because it's just the background, I'm going to do 1.25, even though that's kind of high. Now I'm just going to look at the image, what else can I change here? I think it's good to go. So let's do it. I'm doing 32, which will take a bit longer. Good news is I can just speed it up in post-editing. See you then. Alright guys, we're back, and the image was just created. I haven't looked at it. Let's see. This is pretty cool. Like, most people, like, damn, this is kind of sick. It's got an interesting depth of field effect going on, and like most people would tell you, like us Touhou fans, you'd say that this looks just like what the artist himself would create. Like this image is awesome. So I got really lucky. This was just blind. Considered like kind of bullshitting this by using images that I had made before that came out really well, but I didn't have to because AI is a miracle. So I think that's it. I'm gonna leave a link in the description because I got an image board, and part of why I got into this stuff again is because a guy posted this thread saying like post your AI slop. That guy's pretty interesting, and that reflects in like the AI stuff that he made. So I post my stuff there, and the people who I wanted to show this video to, I want them to go there as well. Maybe like I was gonna show it to. I actually can't name people because that's gay. But still, I think that's everything. Like this picture is super cool. Like most people would love this. So peace out, guys. And AI, remember, just AI one. Like if you're into AI, you're a god, bro. Don't let those tumblerinas get you down. Peace.